Hi, welcome back to Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Tony G. Alvarado. I'm so excited to welcome you, to the last podcast episode of 2023. We are closing out season 11. We have been in dialogue already this month, in the month of December. We've already been in dialogue with members of the Intentional Self-Care Program, and we've dealt with grief and self-care this month because we recognize the month of December can be a little hard for people. Just the holidays in general can be a little difficult for some people because not everybody is merry about Christmas. Some people are experiencing a blue Christmas, and so we started out this month with a conversation on self-care and intentional self-care and grief and how we manage grief through self-care, speaking with one of the members of our intentional self-care program. And so we're closing out the month with one more member of the intentional self-care program. But our conversation this week is around the subject of work-life harmony. I recognize that as we go out of the year and enter into a new year, many of those of us who are entrepreneurs, who work in corporate America, whether we're in ministry or whatever it is we're doing, by this time of the year, sometimes we're very tired, we're worn out, we've been working, we're ready for a holiday break. And then we go into a new year and it's like we hit the ground running again. We're like the hamster on a treadmill. We're like the Energizer bunny, and we're going and going and going, oftentimes until we crash and burn. But there is a such thing as work-life harmony. It is achievable. It is something that you and I can do if we are intentional. And so our guest today that's coming on with us today is going to share her journey of intentional self-care this year, the journey that she's been in this year, 2023, and how it has helped her to facilitate work-life harmony in her life. So I'll be right back with our next guest right after this. All right. You all help me welcome again. This is not her first time on the podcast, but she is back again with us this year. I think I interviewed you in 2020. Was it 2020?
I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was in 2020.
Yeah, the year we started the podcast.
Yes.
Yes. And now you're back. I think we talked about financial wellness.
We did. Financial wellness.
Yeah. Yeah. When you came on before. And so you can go back to my catalog, you all, and find the episode with Dr. Irene Abrons on financial wellness and self-care. And so we talked about that aspect of self-care.
Yes.
3 years ago now?
Yeah, 3 years ago. Oh my goodness.
The first year of the podcast, I had her on. And so she's back on with us again this year. And I just want to introduce her one more time to our podcast community. For those of you who are meeting her for the first time, I want you to know Dr. Irene M. Abrons. She is the Dean of Business and Entrepreneurship of Generation College in Chicago, Illinois. She is the former dean of the online and innovative programs at the Joseph Business School. And she has over 20 years of progressive experience in strategic planning, operations management, project management, and planning, building and managing high-performing teams, business process mapping, and new program initiative development. Her experience also includes adjunct faculty, curriculum development, strategic partnership development, as well as professional development workshops and entrepreneurship training programs. Dr. Abrons and her husband Mitchell have their own business, Abrons Next Level Coaching, where they have helped entrepreneurs scale their business. They believe in helping companies to strengthen from within to produce results, and they provide solutions and ongoing support that assist with the growth of the business. As proven business coaches, they help business leaders and owners solve their most pressing issues and take their leadership skills and business acumen to the next level. Dr. Abrons received her bachelor's in mass communication and film studies from Southwestern College and an MBA in marketing from Keller Graduate School of Management and a doctorate of business administration in marketing and entrepreneurship from Walden University. Y'all help me welcome my sister, my friend, my intentional self-care program, coachee, mentee, spiritual daughter, all of that.
Yes.
Welcome her to our podcast. Welcome, Dr. Irene.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Anytime I can, spend time with you, Dr. Tony, I am just elated. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I'm always happy to have you. I'm always happy to be in your presence, first of all, because you just all that. I mean, look at you, all this stuff that I read about you. Did you realize you do all this stuff?
No.
That's stuff we just do it, right?
We just do it.
So, Irene, I invited you to come on the podcast because this year you engaged in a journey of intentional self-care with me through the Harmonize Your Life Intentional Self-Care Program. Mm-hmm. As you know, I decided this year, I launched, actually, I was talking to you about the program before I launched the program, just kind of brainstorming with you. As a business coach, you were talking through some things at that time. And I shared with you, I wanted to do this program. And then you were like, Dr. Tony, I'm doing this program too. I need this program. I need this in my life. So talk to us about what led you to do the intentional self-care program? What led you into this journey, in this process?
I think it was a combination of several things. The first thing is I think my work-life balance was just non-existent. I was probably working at the time maybe 60 hours a week, and that was a cross between my job and my business. And so I really didn't have a lot of time to myself. Everything was work. It was nothing for me to.
And not to mention, wait a minute, you missed out one area that you're very active in, your local church.
My church, yes.
Exactly.
My church.
So your job, your business, your church, and God knows what else.
And God knows what else. And that's 60 hours was literally work. It wasn't even my ministry assignments at all, and, I would find myself up at all times of the night working, just making sure I was prepared for the next day. I built a lot of programs, wrote a lot of curriculum from scratch. I always say, I feel like my work, I was in a pressure cooker kind of, and I could feel myself breaking down. And so one of the things your book was talking about, just really overcoming like the superwoman syndrome. I think I had it because people expected a lot from me. So I felt like I had to deliver. So by the time you were talking about all the things in your program, we were like brainstorming. I was like, I need to be intentional about my self-care. And I knew that I was on the brink of something, but I didn't know what. Like something had to give. Like I couldn't keep going, at that same pace. So I was excited because it was like finally, it was like a program or just something that caught my attention to help me get off of like this treadmill that I was on, because it just was not healthy. It wasn't healthy at all. So I knew that I needed to do something, and this program was just what I needed.
I'm glad you brought up that whole strong Black woman syndrome that many of us have has in the past, and some that may be listening now have adopted that mantra or that mentality, and that's one of the things that we have worked to deconstruct on this podcast, and through the work that we do in the intentional self-care program and the self-care network, all the things that we're doing, because we realized that carrying that weight on us was not a sustainable model, right? No. And you know me, I don't ascribe to the notion of balance anymore. I've decided that doesn't work. It's not a sustainable model for living.
It's not.
And so I opt for the word or the mantra or the way of living and being in the world. I use the word harmony, the motif of harmony, because I feel like if we can bring our lives into a congruent flow, where where things are flowing properly, where we're doing what we should be doing, resting when we need to rest, taking care of ourselves, eating healthy, working, exercising, spending time with our family, all the things, doing our work, doing ministry, all those things, but doing it in a way that's healthy and not injurious to us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so when you talked about that whole how you were feeling when you came into the program, about feeling like you had to produce
all the time.
Say more about that.
I think, I really had to do the inner work to figure out where that came from, so I don't know if it came from other people or myself. I kind of feel like it came from myself, because growing up, I had high expectations of myself. My family had high expectations. I think it started from there, getting all A's and staying there, getting all A's, getting all A's, getting all A's, and, and I would fight to make sure that I wasn't getting a B, and that just stayed with me. And then when I got in the workforce, I remember one of my managers said, I can always count on I can always count on Irene. I can always count on her to be there. I can always count on you. So I put that pressure on myself, and it was like, it didn't matter who gave me the assignment. I wanted to make sure that I delivered. So I had to really kind of figure out, where did that come from? And it just really comes from pleasing people. It's not even about yourself. Really, it's about pleasing people. And I think that I had to figure that out for myself. Like, girl, you're just trying to please people and you're not even happy yourself. I was getting some of the accolades, like people could count on me. It had served me well. In corporate America, I had got a lot of, bonuses and promotions, recognition. But at the same time, it was breaking me down. Like, I was tired a lot. I didn't get sleep. I was irritable. I made mistakes that I would have to redo stuff because I wasn't focused, and it cost you, but really it was just people pleasing. And I had to repent for that, because I was making idols out of certain people. I can't, I shouldn't have done that. And I was rejecting myself. Like when you came and you preached at our church, you said how it's so uncomfortable to just clap for yourself or applaud yourself or tell yourself you did a good job. I was one of those people that was that way. So just doing the inner work to realize that I needed to make those changes. I mean, I'm at an age where I really should have been ashamed of myself to just continue down the path of trying to please every single body, every person that I worked with or was in ministry with or whatever it was. And I should have been thinking more about, what do I want? So I really had to sit with that.
Yeah. And so, first of all, you're in good company, because most of us have been there or are there. And, it reminds me of something that Dr. Sienna Lee, I had her on the podcast, and she talked about that whole motif, strong Black woman motif. And she actually relates it back to a slavery mentality, because as Black women, it's been expected of us to work. We have been the workforce
yes.
of this nation, right? And so so we're expected to work. And, you know, when our grandmothers were in the fields working, they would have to deliver a baby and still get out there and, and produce. And so we have had, so it really kind of, she ties it back to a slavery mentality. And I had her on the podcast, I think it must have been if we started in 2020, I might have had her on in 2021. And we just talked about that whole idea of breaking down those stereotypes, those myths of the strong Black woman. No, I think it was in 2021 when I had her in. And we talked about that whole idea of the strong Black woman motif. It's really a myth, and it's a misnomer, and it's injurious for us to think that we can continue to work and produce and produce. And then a lot of it is rooted in our need to be needed. It's rooted in our need for accolades, or like you said, people pleasing, not knowing how to say no, and not feeling bad about saying no, or learning how to rightly appropriate people in our lives, as well as the work that we're called to do.
I definitely agree with that. Absolutely. You know, in the bio you read that I was in undergrad, I majored in journalism and film. And you triggered something when you said that. So in film, I did a whole study on Black exploitation movies and films. And they really did make the Black woman like the moral compass and angelic. But at the same time, she was the worker, like she was the maid. And so these motifs, they would say,
either she was the bossy woman, she was the maid, she was the mammy, you know what I'm saying? Or she was the bee, you know, couldn't get us, you know.
And when you look at all these shows, especially the ones I kind of studied, like the 70s ones with like Good Times and That's My Mama and Jeffersons and all these, you know, shows, it was just like the motif that they created for the Black woman, you know, is really how they saw us. They didn't see us as our counterparts, you know, softer and, you know, no, we had to be, like you said, the
hard work,
hard, and,
pushing through, barreling through.
And unfortunately, I think sometimes, you know, when it came to work, I was falling into that, like, you know, someone gave me a project, I wanted to make sure that I went above and beyond. And my counterpart was not doing that at all. You know,
you can say it, the white woman.
Right. Yeah.
Say it. Just say it.
They weren't doing that at all, you know, and you know, it was hard to sit back and watch them, you know, get more money, get ahead, you know, things. And I knew that I was smarter. I knew that I deserved it. And I think that it just became a cycle.
Was working harder.
Working much harder. Much harder.
Yeah. Wow. And so this whole idea of work-life harm, that's one of the main things that we work on. That's one of the tenets of the intentional self-care program, is how do we still do our work, but do it in a way that it's not harmful to us, and really not injurious, not only not harmful to us, but even harmful to those that we're working with. Because if we're not healthy, even, you know what I'm saying, if we're not healthy and whole in our work, then, you know, we might not only be injuring ourselves, but we might be injuring others in the process, you know?
Exactly. And I have to say, this program took me on a whole journey where I came to the point to where I realized that I was not in a good, healthy situation. I was not in a situation, you know, where it was a work-life balance. And not only was I injuring myself, my family was affected by it. You know, some of my coworkers were affected by it because, like I said, I started to make mistakes because I was exhausted. And I needed to correct bad habits so that I could have that work-life balance, so I could be my best self. So, you know, this program, like I said, it came at the right time because I was able to take the necessary steps that I needed to. Now I'm in a much better place. I have amazing work-life balance. And in the new position that I'm in, they preach that. And so we're, you know, we don't work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, because they want us to have work-life balance.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm gonna change that word. I want you to change that word to harmony, from balance.
Work-life harmony. Harmony, yes.
Yes. So, so Dr. Irene, and also work-life harmony is, from what I heard you saying, and one of the things that you had to recognize, that you had also, you found yourself in a toxic environment.
Yes. I did.
Talk about that a little bit more, because we kind of delved into that a little bit with you.
We did. Well, you know what? The thing is for, you know, those of you that are watching, sometimes we don't even know we're in a toxic situation. We don't know. We're just in it. And I think I was in it with blinders, and being a part of this program and doing the work on myself and really just doing the homework, my eyes and my discernment really began to open, that what was happening to me should not have been happening to me. And the things that I was accepting, I should not have been accepting. No one should work 50, 60 hours a week. And nobody, you know, there's not that much work in the world.
It's not. Yeah,
it's not.
And, you know, and in my book, I talk about that. In my book, Harmonize Your Life, we talked about this in the program. We looked at the labor statistics in America, yes. And most Americans are overworked. We work way more hours than in most industrial nations in the world.
Yes.
Most Americans do not take time off work. We leave more sick time, personal time, vacation time, all that stuff on the table for a job that if they decide to let you go tomorrow, they're going to let you go, right? Or if you die tomorrow, they might send a floral arrangement to your funeral. Or, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, what are we doing all of this for?
What are we doing it for? And you know what, Dr. Tony, I had to realize, and I literally said this, I have to choose me. Because to your point, I literally watched this year, I watched people lose their jobs, or people get moved from one position to the next. Like one day their lives were changed, you know, like, no, you're no longer in this position, you're over here, or no, your services are no longer needed. It was so many different things going on. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you know, I'm working my fingers to the bone. I'm trying to do, you know, the best that I can. And one day they could choose someone else. So I needed to choose me for me. And, you know, work-life harmony for me was so non-existent that I didn't even know that I was in trouble, like health-wise, mentally, you know, mentally, emotionally. I was in trouble. You know, my blood pressure was out of control. I had gained so much weight. My skin broke out even more. Like with, you know, I have cystic acne. I have eczema. I mean, I literally had to get a steroid shot for my eczema because it was flaring up to the point to where, because they don't want you to scratch it. But I was like, I needed, like, I wanted to scratch so bad, but all of that stuff was internal, you know, it was nothing like topical that I could take, you know, it was internal, and I had to take control of the situation before it consumed me. And so I needed that work-life harmony. I needed it desperately, you know, and so just really seeking God on, you know, what to do and how to do it. And, you know, he really began to open up different doors for me, you know, along with this program, so that I could just change the situation that I was in, because it was not a good situation, you know, where you're constantly doubting yourself. And that's where I was. I was doubting everything, and it spilled over into family. It spilled over into ministry. You know, it just wasn't contained at work, because like you said, if your life is not harmonized, you know, it just doesn't flow properly. And so my job, my career, it had just taken over and seeped through. It was that toxic. Every area of my life was affected. I would be at meetings in church, like, I'm sorry, I gotta take this work call. I would be in church, like, oh, I need to take this work call. You know, it didn't matter if it was Sunday at 10:30 during my worship service, 7 p.m. at prayer. It didn't matter what time it was. I had to be on call whenever the phone rang. So,
yeah. So what did you learn, or what new habits would you say you developed as a result of the program, as it relates to your work-life harmony and the things that you started doing? I know what they are, but I want you to hear.
One of the first things I did, Dr. Tony, is I cut my time off from when I was going to stop working every day, because I literally was working until I was exhausted. Because so much needed to be done. But I stopped at 5 o'clock. I just stopped at 5. Like, it was important for me to decompress at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I didn't work weekends anymore. My weekends were consumed with work. So I set boundaries.
Yes.
With where and when and how long I was going to work and who I would answer the phone for. So I started to set boundaries. And then number 2, I just started to speak up for myself.
Yes.
One of the things that I love.
Huge. I remember when we talked about that in your session. Oh my God, that was huge.
I had to speak
up. The first time you did it. The first time you did it.
It really was. I had to find my voice, and it's not going back. Even today, my mom was like, she didn't know who I was. She didn't recognize me at all. Because I had to find my voice. And I realized that if I wasn't gonna speak up for myself, nobody was gonna speak up for me. And no one really had, as long as
nobody's coming to save you, honey. So right. And if you're waiting on others to give you permission to take care of you, you will never do it, right? And so, that's good. And when we talked about that whole thing of you speaking up for yourself, will you share, because you share something about your position in your family, being where you're positioned in your family, and how you learned in your family of origin how to not speak up for yourself. Do you mind sharing a little bit of that?
Well, yes, sure, absolutely. So, I'm the oldest. And so as the oldest child, it was like, I'm the second mom. So I was expected to do all these things, take care of my siblings, clean the house, cook, whatever it was. And so I never felt seen or heard, or because it was like, oh, Irene's going to do it. No, she can do it. So it was expected of me. And so for so long, I just took care of my siblings. I did as I was told, because being the oldest, it was expected that I did what I was told. And I was like the second mom. I didn't have a choice. And so because I felt like I didn't have a choice, I just never said anything. And I never felt like they saw me, but they saw my brother, they saw my 2 sisters, but they just didn't see me. And so I felt like speechless. I suffered silently for so long. And then finally, when I got, now that I'm getting my voice, everyone is like, they don't know who this new person is, but it was things that I've held in and things that I wanted to say for so long. I'm just now saying it.
And, and the connection, the aha moment that happened in our session, our one-on-one, was when you shared about your family. And then I asked you, do you think you learned there how to not speak up for yourself? And so now this same Irene is at work, not knowing how to speak up for herself. And you were like, oh my God.
No.
Yes, that's it.
I just didn't make that
breakthrough moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just did not make that correlation where, it was just in me, where again, and I went back to that. you know, people pleasing, and just like, you just do it, Irene. You want them to like you. You want them to love you. You want them to accept you. Don't say anything. Just do it. And then, you know, all my life, oh, you're smart. You can do it. Oh, she's smart. She can do it. And I would think about, like, I'm smart. I'm supposed to be able to do this. I can do this. But that doesn't mean anything.
Oh my goodness. So tell the people what happened the first time you did speak up for yourself, when you did go in and say, hey, I need to shift. What happened?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I really was surprised at the reaction that I got. But I was heard when I went in and said, you know, things aren't working out for me. I need to make a shift. Immediately, things began to change, and everybody was shocked. But the main leader, the CEO, heard me, and he began to make changes on my behalf. Like, I got favor with him. And because I got favor with him, things started to shift for me. And that let me know too, that I do have something to say. I do have a voice. People do want to hear what I have to say. And God allowed that, you know, like the heart of the king changed for me. You know, and that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me. And I'm like, why didn't I speak up sooner?
Right. Why didn't I do this sooner? Right. So we find that we have held ourselves back.
We did.
Oftentimes, you know, a lot of times it is internal. It is the things that we're thinking. And if you go and you say what you need, most times people will capitulate to that.
Yes.
But when we don't say anything, people won't know. And I always say, we teach people how to treat us, right?
Yes.
Right. And no one is going to respect a boundary, a boundary that I have for myself, if I don't respect that boundary.
Right. Yeah. And if you don't say anything, because I really started watching other people, like this class, and especially for me, like the speaking up, and we did affirmations, and those affirmations really helped me as well. But I paid more attention to other leaders, other women that were in leadership, and they all spoke up. Like, they all, whether they were afraid or they were confident, it didn't matter, but they were able to say what they needed. And I was like, you know, I'm doing myself a disservice in the workplace by not saying what I need and allowing them to give me all these projects to work on. You know, at one point I was at 400% capacity. Yeah, it was just too much. It was too much. I was 100%, you know, the dean, the 100%, doing all these other special projects, 100% planning conferences, 100% overseeing the office. Like, it was.
And so you really weren't 100%. That was what was expected of you.
Right.
And like you said, you weren't producing what you thought you was producing, because you said balls were dropping, things, you know, you having to go back and fix stuff.
Yeah, to go back and fix stuff.
We're at 100%, but we're really probably at about 60%.
Right.
But we're expected to be at 100%. And we've taken on all these roles as opposed to saying, I can't do all of this.
You can't, you know, really just taking time for myself. And then I think too, another valuable lesson I learned in this class was learning how to relinquish control over, you know, I tried to control everything, control the narrative of what people thought about me. Like, when I say I tried to control these narratives, I just relinquished it, you know, relinquished that control and said, this is what I can do. This is it. Because I wasn't happy. And like I said, I wasn't, I was making mistakes. I was going back over. I was catching them. Thank God. I'm like, how did I do that? Because you're tired, because you're rushing through, because you're not paying attention, and you're trying to control everything. And I started delegating to my team more. I started raising them up, becoming a better leader, training them, because I wasn't doing them any service doing the work when I had a team of people that could do it. So really learning how to delegate to them and then giving boundaries with them because I had none. Like they would be the main people calling me all the time. So I had to be like, I'm not taking calls at this point. I'm not doing this. No, you have to do it. And really learning. And so 2023 was very pivotal for me because I had to really harmonize my life in every area. But my work was the main thing where I was losing myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that was your main thing. Let talk about what you did physically for yourself, because one of the symptoms of you being of your life being out of control with your work was the blood pressure piece.
Yes.
High blood pressure, the weight gain, the skin condition that flared up.
Oh yeah.
So you're eating, all those things. We talked about those.
We talked about that. Yeah. Well,
how did you change those things?
I really had to get my life in order. So I just started changing. Like the number one thing was my weight was just, it was too much. And so I started to lose weight. I went to my primary care physician, got all these, got the test and everything. I had to be on blood pressure medicine. I'm so excited that I was on 2 different medicines. Now I'm not, because my blood pressure is under control. So now I'm on one. I'm going to come off that one soon. This year, my goal was to lose 60 pounds. I wanted to lose 60 pounds in 2023. I didn't lose 60 pounds. I lost 28 pounds. I'm happy about that. That was a lot for me because I changed my eating. I bought myself a Peloton. I started riding it. When I started riding it, I could only do 5 minutes. Now I can do more than 5 minutes. I could do 20, the 20-minute rides. But I just had to work myself up to that. And I love lifting weights. I bought myself a weight set. Like you inspired the lifting the weights. I bought myself a weight set. But what I realized is the endorphins that I get after, like while I'm like lifting and after, and the energy I get, and
it's nothing like it.
Yes, and I feel stronger. I feel
you feel alive. You feel empowered. You feel like you can lift a car. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's really, it really does. And for me, exercise is a total body, mind, spirit, all of that experience. I
love it
because of what you get back from it, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know that I didn't know I would feel that way, and so I look forward to it. My husband and I, appearance wise, I changed my hair because I didn't know what to do with my hair, but I wanted locks, and I was afraid because I didn't know how corporate America would think. But I just jumped in and I did it. I changed. I wanted to get my hair locked. I got my hair locked. I started living for myself. And that was the biggest change. I started living for myself. I got a subscription to a place where I can go get like with the esthetician. So my dermatologist, of course, controls my, helps with my skin. I have medicine for my acne and things like that and my eczema. But now with the esthetician, I get monthly facials, monthly, exercise, massages. And I have my massage and my facial this coming up Monday. Like I stay focused, like every month I make sure that I go. And when I say I am like, who is it? Who am I? Like this, I'm like, who am I getting like facials and I love it. And, I'm traveling more. And
you're traveling.
I have an opportunity in March. It's the second week in March. I got to look at the calendar, but I got an opportunity to teach in the Netherlands for a week. I'm so excited about that. It's like doors. God is opening doors for me, as I'm just staying grounded and faithful in his word, but just really choosing myself and choosing to make sure that I'm nourishing my soul and feeding my soul and feeding myself. That self-care, is so important. And I neglected that part of me for so long that now that I'm doing it, I just feel alive and happy and well. And I'm never going back to those bad habits again. You know, I'm going to stay here and just continue to thrive in this area, because I didn't know that there was this person inside of me waiting to come out. And they're here now.
And she's here to stay.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Irene, for coming in and sharing your testimony, your journey with us. It's been really good. I want you to I'm gonna share where people can find you, and do a little station identification right here for a minute, and then I want you, in your final words of encouragement, to just encourage women who may be listening, who may be struggling with intentional self-care and grief or work-life harmony, whatever it is that they are struggling with this December, and just encourage them, give them some words. What strategies would you recommend, or anything like that? So let me just let everybody know where we are and how to find us. Yeah. We are, those of you that are listening or watching, this is the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. You can find us on Anchor, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then you can also, what I'm highly recommending is that you follow us on YouTube. If you will subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm almost at 500 subscribers, and I'm trying to get there by the end of the year. So subscribe to the channel, share, like, and subscribe to the channel, because what happens is when you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you allow you help us. The more people we have subscribed and engaging, we are more readily found in Google searches, because Google and YouTube, Google owns YouTube and all that. And so because these podcast episodes are informational, inspirational, these conversations are changing people's lives. And we want to make sure that people can find this podcast when they go. It's free. You don't have to pay to listen to this podcast or share it or whatever. Listen, while you're down during the holiday season and you binging on Bridgerton and all your favorite Christmas movies and Netflix movies and all that, how about binge on the Harmonize Your Life podcast with Dr. Tony and her guests? You can go from episode to episode, take a day or 2 days and just listen and find the episode that you need, because we got mental health therapists on here. We got fitness professionals, mental health professionals, medical doctors, nutritionists, you name it. We have run the gamut. Financial planners, accountants, all kind of people have been on this podcast. Just your everyday woman has been on this podcast. Mothers, grandmothers, it doesn't matter what age. We've had women in their 40s, 50s, 30s, 60s, 70s. We've even had one of our guests in her 80s on this podcast talking about living her best life at 80. Listen, we have run the gamut in these 3 full years of the Harmonize Your Life podcast. So go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and share these conversations with women and men that you know. We even got men on this podcast. We got pastors and bishops, male therapists, male doctors. So it's not just women guests, but we've had men as well come into the studio with me, and we've had some wonderful dialogue and conversations around self-care, health, wellness, fitness, all things self-care on this podcast. So please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe and share these podcast conversations. Women, you can join the Harmonize Your Life Self-Care Network by going to my website at drtonyalvarado.com. Hit the button there and join the Self-Care Network. That's the larger network. When you join the Self-Care Network, you come into a larger community of women like you and I who are concerned with self-care, health, and wellness, and we hold one another accountable. It's in that network that you're allowed to come into Tea Time with Dr. Tony every month. I do tea time with the women that are there, a part of the network, and I facilitate a group meeting with them, as well as bring in guests and things of that nature through the tea time with Dr. Tony. And you can get that access to that by joining the Harmonize Your Life self-care network. I also want you to know that applications are open for the intentional self-care program. That's an additional program to the self-care network. The intentional self-care program, of which Irene is a member of, which she's been talking about. She took a whole year and we worked together. She did the work, y'all, of intentional self-care. She didn't get where she is today. She wasn't there when we started at the beginning of the year, but look at her now in December, going into the next year, and she has met her goals. She's exceeding her goals. She has expanded, and she is living a harmonious life today. She is experiencing work-life harmony, which was one of her goals when she came into the program. Go there and to my website, or email me, at hello.drtonyalvarado.com. If you want to be in the next cohort of the intentional self-care program, email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com. My guest today, Dr. Irene Abrons. I want to let you know where you can find her. Her organization is Abrons Next Level Coaching, Abrons Next Level Coaching, and you can go to her website at abronsnextlevelcoaching.com. Go there and look her up. You can find her on Facebook at Irene Tillman Abrons, and on Instagram at Dr. Irene, Dr.Irene_Abrons on Instagram. She's on Twitter at Irene Abrons. You can find her podcast. She and her best friend have a podcast on YouTube called The Bestie Advice. Go to YouTube and you can follow her there. She's on LinkedIn at Dr. Irene Abrons, and she's on TikTok regularly. I follow her on TikTok. She has some really, really creative TikToks there on as well. So you can find her on TikTok at Irene Michel 26. Irene Michel 26. She's also on Twitter at Irene Abrons. I am so grateful again to have you as a part of the Harmonize Your Life intentional self-care program. I'm so proud of you and all you accomplished this year in the program. And I want you, as we sign off today, if you would give one last word of encouragement to our listeners as we prepare to close.
I would encourage anybody that's listening to this to enroll in the intentional self-care program. It changed my life. It saved my life. So I would say enroll, be a part of Dr. Tony's Harmonize Your Life group. She gives great information, and just do it. You have to break the spirit of fear. And I think that was me. You know, I had to break the spirit of fear and just do it. But find someone that can hold you accountable. If you want to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. All this year, I was like, Peter, I had to get out of the boat. I had to be uncomfortable and step out of the boat. And I encourage you to do that. And I have to thank you, Dr. Tony, because you helped me get out of the boat. I was riding the boat for so long, and you helped me step out of the boat and do something that I didn't think that I was able to do. And because of that, I'm here today. I'm so excited. I have a brand new position that I start January 1st. And I'm excited about what God is doing, that I'm now living in work-life harmony. So if you're listening to me, enroll in this program and do the work. I think having someone that I was accountable to, and not only I was accountable to Dr. Tony, but I was accountable to myself. I was accountable to my husband, you know, and he was watching, and he saw me in the meetings and talking through everything, and he held me accountable as well. But I was ready to do the work because I desperately wanted and needed that change. And so again, thank you so much, Dr. Tony. I really have to thank you, because what you're doing is truly amazing. It's ministry, And you just don't know how much you've helped me see the light. And I'm so grateful. I've changed, you know, how my thought process and everything that I do. So I thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for trusting me. As I tell all of you every month, thank you for trusting me to lead you through a process of intentional self-care. All right. That's it, y'all. This is the last episode of 2023. Look at you, Irene. You brought up the rear. You brought up the rear. You helped me close out the year. Wow, 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 wow. 3 full years of podcast episodes. And there were days I wanted to quit.
Oh my goodness. I understand.
Oh my God. I was like, okay, God, okay. Am I done yet? Can I let it go? But we're going into the year 2024. You all have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. I'm so excited. I'm starting the new year out with my self-care retreat in Jamaica. Ooh. Now, Irene, 2025, you better be there.
Oh my goodness.
You better be there. And so we're gonna start in 2024 in Jamaica. We got 95 women that are going with us on the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat. And then we got so many more things that we're going to be doing next year in this self-care network. I'm super, super, super excited about 2024. I'm excited. Thank you all for hanging with me all year long on this podcast for year 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. And now we're going into a whole nother year in the year 2024. So we'll look to see you again on the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, yours truly, Dr. Tony G. Alvarado. I see y'all in the new year.